There's something wrong with our chickens. Let me explain. Hey guys, I hope you've been keeping positive and motivated. If this is your first time here, I am Thor and I share my experience as part of my Life After Failure series to entertain, encourage and inspire you and people all around the world. Okay, not really the typical video of what you might be used to, but just bear with me a moment. If you have followed the channel for a little while now, you might have seen the video where I've revealed that my son and daughter have been diagnosed with autism. Something we didn't know much about until recently, until my wife and I took part in a number of courses to educate ourselves. But would we have done this if we were not affected? Probably not, which seems to be a problem in today's society. Just because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean it isn't there. I'm not judging. I was one of those parents labeling other children as naughty, which is just not always the case. I considered making another channel dedicated to our lives with an autistic child. But there are many valuable channels out there already. One of them being Coming Home to Autism, which I found very useful with very practical tips and advice. If you have an autistic child, I would welcome you to join and maybe add value by adding comments below of maybe how your life has been affected with the autism or even ADHD diagnosis. I would like to shine light on autism to those whose lives are not currently affected and are somewhat ignorant to the subject, just like I was until recently. I hope that makes sense. So going forward, I will want to try and add subtle sub-stories into my storytelling on my Life After Failure series in the hope for you to understand why we do what we do and gain your own understanding about autism and how you should respond to a child on the spectrum. So with all that out of the way, and thank you if you're still with me, let's talk about the chickens. When Johan received his diagnosis in December 2020, we were considering getting a dog. But with the pandemic, the cost of the dog was far beyond what we were willing to spend. It took a lot of convincing my wife the benefits a chicken would bring. But there's been some really interesting and life-saving testimonials about chickens and children with autism. If I'm honest, I was never very fond of chickens. When I was small, I found them quite scary and creepy. Yet, they are the closest relatives to the T-Rex, right? I started building the chicken coop with the help of my daughter, and eventually it was time to pick up our blue egg-laying chickens. My son was immediately in love with them. It took some time for him to realize that he couldn't play so rough with them, but this hasn't been the only benefit they have had. Johan was nonverbal until recently, and there is definitely still a way to go, but the progress in his communication and speaking he has made through those chickens has been amazing. I never had chickens of my own before, so I'm learning as I'm going. Since we had them, they never chose to lay their eggs in their nesting box that I built. Apparently, if you leave eggs in there, they will get the idea that this is the place to lay their eggs. At some point I removed the nesting box as they showed no interest in it at all. However, after recently having to reconstruct the roofing due to heavy rain coming into the coop, I decided to put the nesting box back and place 2 eggs inside. In the next few days I found something very strange. When I would pick up the eggs, I found 4 eggs in the usual spot outside of the nesting box. 2 that had been laid that day and the 2 that I placed in the nesting box. But how did they get there? I wouldn't be me if I wouldn't go and figure out what happened. Turns out that Batman finally figured out what the nesting box was for. But Hi-Fi is very keen on getting Batman out of there. And here it is. Hi-Fi rolls the eggs out of the nesting box, and there's Batman placing them in the desired spot, and it seems only then will Hi-Fi lay her egg while sitting on the eggs that have already been laid. I found this quite fascinating, while not necessarily understanding the reasoning behind it, but hey, maybe you know, and if so, do leave it in the comment section below. My apologies if this felt a bit experimental, but it kind of is. So anyway, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section below. And as always, stay positive and stay motivated, and I shall see you in the next one.